Hey everybody, with John Walk, Jeff Reinhart here for another week of LL Sports Update. Week 5 of LL football. We've reached the halfway point.
Well, not just that. I have to play the games yet, and then we'll be a halfway point.
Unbelievable. This season is just flying. So we're hoping you're enjoying the show here so far with football season. And we have some other cool things on tap for this show. Let's start with our game of the week. LMP poll, big game, monster game, LL Section 2 rivalry game. Manheim Central 4-0 goes on the road over to Cocalico. Eagles are 4-0. Bitter rivals, I guess you could call them. Both playing great, both undefeated. Cocalico won last year in the regular season. Central gets revenge in districts, beats the Eagles 50-13 in the district semifinal. So never any love lost when Manheim Central and Cocalico get together. So let's break that down. We both got to practice this week. What did you see at Cocalico?
Yeah, at Cocalico, well, we'll go back a week ago. We saw Cocalico's put up, 167 points in the first 3 weeks of the season, held to 14 points in their 14-0 win over a very good Elizabethtown defense. However, they did still rack up 300-plus rush yards. Score from Austin Lander, score from Brandon Brubaker. So they still got it done there on the ground. I still like that. That's still rolling for them. It's going to be a strong thing all year for the Eagles. And even though they did play a tough E-Town defense last week, they still got it done on the ground. It's interesting, like you said, we're out at both Manheim Central and Cocalico practices this week. And Manheim Central coach Dave Hahn pointed out the fact that Cocalico, senior-laden team across the board, and I was just going back over their stats last night. And if you look, so we talked about the Cocalico offense. We all know about that. The Cocalico defense now, think back-to-back shutouts. And they've done a great job defensively. So I'm like, okay, well, what's going right for them? 11 of their top 13 tacklers are seniors.
Wow.
One of the top names that you should keep note of for Friday, defensive lineman Ben Fromm. He's having a big year for them so far. Last week, so far overall, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Plus, their secondary has 8 interceptions.
Wow.
And you're going to talk about the sophomore quarterbacks here in a second. So Evan Simon, the quarterback for Manheim Central, the sophomore, is going to have his hands full.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Okay, you mentioned the sophomore quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on here. Evan Simon at Manheim Central, first sophomore at Manheim Central to start at quarterback full-time since Jeff Smoker. So he's got a lot on his shoulder. How about that? And Noah Palm for Cocalico, another sophomore. These guys have been great running their offenses. Like them a lot. Evan Simon, big test here with Cocalico's defense. They returned 10 starters on defense. That's a great number there with 11 out of 13 are seniors. Wow. So yeah, big test here for Manheim Central, no doubt. Had a good test last week with Last trailed at half, 10-7, made some adjustments, and came out and scored 34 points or something in the second half and won that game. So I'll be keeping an eye on the quarterbacks in this one. A couple of sophomores, and actually I'm writing about this week for the feature. 2 sophomore quarterbacks starting Manheim Central versus Cocalico. So that'll be in print on Thursday. So take a look for that. We'll see how Noah Palm and Evan Simon are prepping for this big game. And how they're doing here so far in their huddles as 10th graders. Impressive. We were all out of practice this week, as mentioned. Had a chance to catch up with Coach Hahn at Manheim Central and Coach Gingrich at Cocalico. Here's some interviews with those guys.
All right, Coach, you got a big game this week. Manheim Central coming up. Obviously, we know about their strong run game with Tyler Flick, and they have the sophomore quarterback in Evan Simon. What have you seen on tape that concerns you?
Well, Manheim Central just traditionally plays solid football. They're solid on the line. They're solid in their skill positions. They're well coached. They don't make mistakes. And, this team is no different. This team is very explosive. They can score just like that, play great defense. So I don't see a lot of weaknesses. We're going to have our hands full this week.
You have to be disciplined. You have to play assignment football, and you got to be physical. If you're not physical with a team like Cocalico, they come flying off the ball. So if you're not physical with them, you're going to be in trouble. It's going to be a long night. And if you're not disciplined, if your offense and what they're doing offensively, they're going to keep pounding and eventually count on you making a mistake. So we've got to be disciplined and be physical and just keep after them all night long.
All right, thanks to those guys for those interviews. Jeff, another big game in LL Section 2 this week between Solanco and Elizabethtown. Tell us about that one.
Interesting game for a couple of reasons. Contrasting styles. You mentioned E-Town last week. Their defense has been so good, and they held Cocalico to 14. And if you would have said E-Town's going to hold Cocalico to 14, I would have said, wow, E-Town won.
Yeah.
But their defense has been really, really good. Didn't get much going offensively last week. They only had 42 rushing yards and 140 yards against Cocalico. So E-Town's offense needs to get back on track here. We like Livingston, the tailback. We really like Devin Clare, the fullback. Those guys can really run. So we'll see if E-Town can get its offense back on track in this one. Solanco, wow, had a chance to cover them on Saturday night against Garden Spot. Not a lot of defense going on in Corryville. 64-42, Solanco wins. Nick Yanitz, who we'll touch on again here later in the show, had a big game, 320 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. Solanco's running game has been awesome, 1,500 yards on the ground. Mules are scoring a ton of points, so it's going to be Solanco's rushing attack with the option game going up against E-Town's. Still really good defense. To hold that Cocalico offense to just 14 was really impressive. So we'll see if Solanco can kind of solve E-Town, and we'll see if E-Town's offense can muster enough in case they get in one of these crazy shootout games to keep up with Solanco. So that's a big game there. Big game up in Section 1. Conestoga Valley with their unbelievable pass-happy offense takes on Manheim Township, which is playing great. Shut out Hempfield 56-zip last week. Tell us about that game.
Yeah, Conestoga Valley now 3 weeks in a row. They've gone straight down to the wire. What was it, week 2 in the overtime game, 55-54 win over Solanco. And then week 3, another overtime game, 57-54 loss to Lampeter Strasburg. And then week 4 last week, went down to the wire against McCaskey, pulled it out, 28-25 winners there. However, the Red Tornado did have a potential game-winning touchdown called back in the last couple minutes there. But then again, you never know with that pass-happy CV offense what they would have done with 2+ minutes left on the clock anyways. But yeah, the Buckskins pulled out there, and like I said, they've gone down to the wire. Plus, at least all 4 games, they put up at least 4 touchdowns so far this week. The wide receiver, Jose Barbone, again continues his hot streak. 4 touchdown catches last week. You did this a couple weeks ago, just as far as looking at his touches and his numbers. 12 total touchdowns on the year, 10 receiving, 2 special teams, on 49 total touches between catches, special teams, and running the ball. That's a touchdown once every 4 touches, which is pretty ridiculous. And the guy getting it to him is Tanner Schwilk. I believe he has close to 1,300 passing yards through 4 weeks. So obviously that's going to be a key there. Going up against a Township team that also does like to pass with Luke Emge, the Harvard quarterback, so it could be a pass-happy type of game. However, Township, we saw them last week, you mentioned it, 56-0 blowout over Hempfield of all teams, which surprised us immensely, especially coming off that 49-14 Week 3 loss to Governor Mifflin. They bounced back. I think the Manheim Township team that we saw in Week 4 is probably the Manheim Township team that we're going to get the rest of the way. Grayson Saladay, the running back, huge breakout game last week. Season high, I think, 169 yards. Season high 3 touchdowns for him. Also worth mentioning on the other side of the ball, outside linebacker Drake Puffenbarger. The kid is 6'4", 240 pounds. I guess I shouldn't call him a kid. But last week, he had a big game, 5 tackles, 4 solo, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. So they're starting to get it done defensively. They've gotten it done defensively 3 out of the 4 games this year.
No doubt.
The numbers haven't really been there. The thing that concerns me, it's going to be interesting. Manheim Township secondary, only 1 interception so far this year. They're going to be going up against the CV quarterback and Tanner Schwilk, 18 touchdowns, only 3 picks. So it's going to be a good game there. All right, we talked about high school football. We saw Penn State last Saturday while you were busy coming to the Solanco Garden Spot game.
Saw the 4th quarter, though. That's all you needed to see.
Yeah, they pulled it out. They have another, well, I don't know if it's as equal as a tough test, but Indiana's going to present some trouble. To talk about that, we throw it to LNP's Mike Gross.
It's Penn State 4-0 and ranked 4th in the country against Indiana 3-1 in another Big Ten game on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. at Beaver Stadium. Penn State is, of course, the 4th-ranked team in the country, and they've got the hottest player in the country in Saquon Barkley. Indiana has a team that has kind of a tradition of playing good teams tough and kind of played Penn State tough a year ago. We'll see how it goes this Saturday, Penn State and Indiana, and I'm Mike Gross for LancasterOnline.com.
Okay, Mike, thank you for that. We'll see if Penn State can keep rolling here this week. They've been fun so far. Okay, as promised, we told you, not strictly football here. It's time to talk about some other LL sports. Fall sports, Tim Gross, our own Tim Gross, dropped by this week to chat LL Boys soccer, and he filed this video report for you.
The Lancaster-Lebanon League boys soccer season is past its halfway point, so let's check in on how teams are doing. In Section 1, Hempfield's out in front with a 7-0 record against section teams. The Black Knights picked up a big victory Tuesday against Conestoga Valley 2-0 behind 2 goals from Jacob Sukar. In Section 2, Ephrata is out in front of a very competitive pack with 8 wins against the section opponents, including Saturday's 1-0 win over E-Town. That was an Andrei Petrushev goal in the final minute of overtime that got that big win for the Mounts. They've got another big one coming up Thursday against Cocalico, so that'll be one to watch and follow along with the coverage on Lancaster Online. And in Section 3, Lancaster Mennonite is out to a strong start. The Blazers won their first 11 games, including 7 in the section, and those wins included Fred Winey's 200th win as the Blazers head coach. I'm Tim Gross for Lancaster Online.
Okay, Tim, thanks for that. I hope everybody is enjoying Tim's boys soccer coverage this fall. Speaking of which, keep it on Lancaster Online for all fall sports coverage. Tim's on boys soccer, Dave Burns on girls soccer, Diana Pugliese is on field hockey. There's a lot going on, so make sure you're checking Lancaster Online every day for updates and stats and standings for all things fall sports LL League. Also on the page this week, check out John's Q&A with Nick Yanitz. He's our player of the week, LL football, the 320 yards and 4 touchdowns last week against Guard Spot. He was a beast. He played great.
Yeah, he was only a sophomore, scored his first touchdowns of his career, I think 3 or 4 touchdowns last Saturday.
Yeah, he was amazing. So make sure you check Lancaster Online for John's interview with Nick Yanitz from Solanco, our player of the week. Wrapping it up this week, we have another Glory Days. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you guys again for sending us in submissions. First up, you guys will be looking at a picture from 1995, a district semifinal football game between Columbia and Scotland. Wow. This is Columbia's Scott Rupp returning a kickoff for 96 yards in what ended up being a 40-30 Columbia win as the Tide went on to capture the District 3 Class 1A title that year in 1995. Thanks to Scott Rupp for sending in that picture. Next up, this is a picture from 1982. And if you guys are saying to yourself, man, that face looks familiar, well, that is Mr. Ron Kennedy when he played football back in the day for the Donegal Indians football team. Ron Kennedy, of course, is now the longtime Donegal athletic director. He's also the District 3 committee chairman as well. And he sent in this picture himself a couple weeks back, pointing out that, yes, he did once have a full head of hair. So thanks to Ron and thanks to Scott Rupp for sending in those pictures. Like I say every week, if you guys have any cool Glory Days pictures, whether it be from a year ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, we don't care. Find a way to get it out of a scrapbook or what have you. Send it in here to sports@lnpnews.com with your name, the team, the year, any other pertinent information to that picture, and we will feature it right here in the Glory Days segment. Okay, week 5 of high school sports in the book. Thanks to you guys for watching. He's Jeff Reinhart. I'm John Walk. See you next week.